Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Leanne and welcome back to another What's for Dinner video. I love bringing you some easy recipes and just sharing with you what we eat in our home and how we make it, because I know for me, I get lots of dinner ideas from watching these videos, so I like to share them as well. So today I'm sharing with you 3 really easy and delicious different dinner recipes, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I hope you do. If you do, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe by hitting the red subscribe button below. That would mean so much to me. And yeah, let's get started with the first recipe. All right guys, so for today's dinner we're having a pot roast. I am not searing this like on the stovetop first. Where did I put my salt? Hang on. I had my salt somewhere else getting ready for another recipe I'm working on. I've never seared my roast prior to putting them in the crock pot. I know there's some benefits to it, but I've just never done it. And I was gonna do it today, and time-wise, I just am like, nope, I'm just gonna get this going, so. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon or so of onion powder, but I'm gonna do that on both sides. Got a tablespoon of parsley, about a teaspoon of oregano, a spoonful of minced garlic, or maybe 2, a couple tablespoons maybe of Worcestershire sauce, maybe more. I don't know, not measuring. I've got almost 2 cups of vegetable broth. I do not have any beef broth. I have some beef bones in my freezer and actually need to make some broth, but I only have a half of an onion left, so I'm just putting that in quartered. I'm also gonna put a few stalks of celery, just chunks, for some added flavor. And then I had some carrots. Now I usually also do potatoes, but I think I'm going to serve this with mashed potatoes, which I don't normally do, so I'm not putting the potatoes in here. All right, popping the lid on for low for hopefully at least 6 hours. All right, so I don't follow a recipe, and as a result, I forgot something else I wanted to add. So it's only been, I don't know, maybe an hour, but I'm just gonna add in some ranch seasoning. I'm using my own homemade stuff, and I'm probably gonna put, I don't know, 2 tablespoons. All right, so it's been a few hours and I'm switching to voiceover because I think at this point my husband was probably home and we're talking and the TV's on. So anyways, I pulled the roast out and I'm just slicing it into chunks, and then we're gonna put it back in to just be with all the juices. I'm also trimming off any big chunks of fat at this time. You could also, I guess, shred it. I feel like it comes out a little bit different for me each time, so it just depends on how it comes out, how I end up serving it, but that's what I'm doing now. I also picked out some of these celery pieces, and I don't really remember why. I mean, I wouldn't want to eat them, but I don't really know why I picked them out at that point. But anyways, I'm adding in some herbamare, which is basically a seasoned salt, just for a little bit more flavor. And then we're gonna move on to the mashed potatoes. Nothing complicated, lots of different ways to do it, but I thought I'd show you. And I'm just going to peel and dice up my potatoes. We don't necessarily care if our mashed potatoes are like super smooth mashed potatoes. We don't mind if they're a little bit more like smashed potatoes, I guess. I don't know, but I'm just cutting them up into smaller cubes because they will cook faster. I'm also pulling out some of the broth from the crock pot, and we're going to make some gravy. So that's what I'm doing there. And then I'm also adding in a can of corn that doesn't really have to cook and doesn't need to, you know, thaw or anything. So that can go in right at the end. Oh, and I had a little dish in the refrigerator with some corn, so I added a little extra there. So, and I had splattered some on my shirt there. So yeah, okay. And I snagged myself a little bite. And we're going to put that back on and let that sit while we get the potatoes on the boil and while we make our gravy. So for the gravy, we're just going to bring that broth up to you want it not quite to a boil, but, well, I guess to a simmer maybe. Adding in some of that herbamare, again, which is like a seasoned salt, and then we're going to whisk in a couple tablespoons of flour, just kind of until it gets to the thickness that I want, and that's pretty much all I do for my gravy. All right, so the gravy's done and I pull that off the burner and we're going to go to the potatoes. They feel like they're done. I just stab them with a fork until it feels like they're mashable, and I'm just going to drain the potatoes. And then I'm using, this is like the meat chopper thing from Pampered Chef. You could use a potato masher, you could use a mixer, whatever. I just added in a little bit of heavy whipping cream. I had about 2 ounces of cream cheese left over from something in the fridge. And we're just gonna mix that all together. Sometimes I do cream cheese, sometimes I do sour cream, sometimes I do milk, heavy whipping cream, butter, kind of any combination. Certainly don't do all of those at once, but just whatever I have on hand that needs to be used, and that sounds good to get it creamy. And I served the roast and veggies over the mashed potatoes, and this was really good. I, like I said, normally put the potatoes right in the roast, but I liked having it this way this time. It was delicious. All right, so for this next recipe, we're going to be making a cheesy potato kielbasa soup. The recipe calls for 1 pound of kielbasa, but the packages I buy come in, I think, 14 ounces, so it's a little bit shy. But we're just going to cut them into 1.5-ish size slices, and I'm just going to brown that up in a pot with some olive oil. You're gonna cook for a few minutes until, just stir them frequently and until they get to, you know, I don't know, a little bit of brownness. Then I pulled the kielbasa out and just left the oil in there, and now I've got about let's see, what do I got? About 1/2 cup of finely diced onion, along with a couple stalks of celery, and then I sauteed that for a little bit and then added in about 1/2 cup of peeled and finely diced carrots, and then we're gonna lastly add in some garlic. We're going to go ahead and saute that for a minute or two. I'm also trying to scrape up any bits off the bottom from doing the kielbasa. And then we're going to add in some chicken stock, about 4 cups of chicken stock. And again, you can kind of use that to scrape up off the bottom. And then we're going to add in 1.5, well, it said 1.5 pounds of potatoes. I don't know how many pounds I did, but I just cut up a few and diced them up. And then we're going to boil those until the potatoes are done. Once the potatoes are done, we're going to add in the cooked sausage. And then we're going to add in 2 cups of milk, 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, and 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese, along with some salt. And you could do pepper. I don't cook with pepper because I don't care for pepper, but along with some pepper and some, the recipe calls for some chopped parsley. I did not have any fresh parsley, so I add in some dried parsley here in just a minute. But you're gonna just stir that up until the cheese is all melted and everything is warmed through and well combined. This soup was absolutely delicious. I'd kind of forgotten that I had made this because I filmed this a little while ago, but this was really good and we very much enjoyed this. All right, so for this last recipe, I'm gonna be making a meatloaf, but we're switching it up a little bit. I will have the original recipe that I kind of use as a guide linked below, as well as I'll have the recipe for the soup down for you. But now the recipe calls for 1.5 pounds of ground beef. The package I have is just at 1 pound, so I kind of adjusted everything a little bit. So it is approximately 1 pound of ground beef, 3/4 cup, well, the original recipe would be 1.5 pounds of ground beef, 3 1/4 cups of oatmeal or seasoned breadcrumbs. I used some panko breadcrumbs, 1 cup of milk, which I did a little bit less because it was less meat, 1 egg. Calls for chopped onion. I just used some minced onion, some Worcestershire sauce, seasoned salt, mustard, and again, the recipe will be linked below. And then I decided to add in some bacon. I have done bacon wrapped meatloaf before, but I had this bacon already cooked, so that's why I'm doing it this way. I did put on my gloves because I knew the next step was going to be mixing the meat, and I don't like to do that with my bare hands.
So recently, Kat from Southern Farm and Kitchen had done a cheese stuffed meatloaf that was then wrapped in bacon. And I was like, okay, I've done the bacon, but the cheese I think I need to do. So like I said, the bacon was already cooked, so I chopped that up, or broke it up rather, and just mixed that in. And then we're going to stuff this with cheese. So I realized this was a little bit too wet, so I had my husband come over and add in some more panko breadcrumbs. And I think I had also added in some Italian seasoning, and I did that because I didn't use seasoned breadcrumbs. I just used the plain ones. So anyways, that was kind of why I did that. So I just kind of put down half of the meatloaf and then laid the cheese down and then put the rest of the meatloaf on top and kind of sealed the cheese inside, if that makes sense. So I just did a couple slices of Munster and then some shredded cheddar cheese. I was just kind of using what I had and what needed to be used. So that is what I did there. But when I saw it on Kat's channel, I was like, oh my gosh, I need that. You know, cheese stuffed in anything is pretty much a good deal to me. So there I'm just kind of almost like I'm sealing it in, is kind of what I'm doing there so the cheese doesn't completely ooze out. And then we're going to bake that in the oven at 350. The recipe is for calls for about an hour. I think I did a little bit less because again, it was a slightly smaller loaf. And then I also made mashed potatoes. It's interesting because we actually don't normally do a lot of mashed potatoes, but there's 2 of them in this video. So I don't know, maybe I'm on a mashed potato kick. Once again, just peeling and dicing the potatoes. We're gonna boil them and cook them until they are tender. And then for the topping for my meatloaf, I like to do ketchup, brown sugar, and a little bit of sriracha sauce. I really don't follow a recipe here. I just kind of do whatever sounds good, tastes good. And I do a decent amount because I put a little bit on top of the meatloaf, but I also like to have enough on the side for dipping. So when it's close to the end, about 10 to 15 minutes left, you're going to just spread some of that sauce on top and pop it back in the oven for another few minutes. So this time I'm doing the mashed potatoes with some sour cream. So once again, I kind of just use what I have on hand. I kind of know the different things that go good with it, and I just switch it up each time. Video's not quite done yet. I'm going to show you the finished product of this meatloaf, but I did want to just say that if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps me out, and I would love it if you would say hello in the comments because I just love hearing from you. And don't forget to hit the notification bell after you subscribe so that my videos will actually pop up in your subscriptions and you'll know when I post a new video. So you see I added just a little bit of milk. We use almond milk and then a little bit of butter and some seasoned salt. And there is the meatloaf after we cut into it. We probably should have let it set for a little bit before cutting into it so all the cheese didn't ooze out, but it was amazing. And then we just served that alongside the mashed potatoes and some steamed broccoli. All right, guys, well, that's gonna be it for today's video. Once again, if you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos, and I will see you in the next one.